Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the Jeremiah Show, it's radio with TV's Tim Stack. Now here's the host of the show, a man whose first job as an actor caused movie star Robert Mitchum to get into a fight with his own director. It's TV's Tim Stack.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the first episode of It's Radio with TV's Tim Stack. Oh my God, you can hear the applause. Okay, we'll add that in post. Anyway, welcome everybody. I'm going to quickly tell that Robert Mitchum story. It was my first job. I was hired as an actor on the miniseries Winds of War. And my first job, it was shot in a hall. I was going to be working with Robert Mitchum. It was just me and Robert Mitchum. And it was shot in a hallway, so there was no wide shot. So the first shot was on Robert Mitchum. And then they turned the camera around, and I had no idea what I was doing. I got through the lines okay the first time, and then they turned the camera around. They said, "Tim, stand here." You know this story? I'm going to introduce my guest later, but
I don't think so.
You never heard the story?
No.
Oh, so they said, "Stand here, Tim." So I stand here, and I look down. I see a piece of tape, which I learned later was a mark, and then the director, this guy Dan Curtis, who's a big director and TV producer. And all of a sudden he said to me, "Tim, move to the right." So I had only worked on stage at Boston College. So I take what would be maybe a yard. I step to the right because I think I'm on stage. And this director, Dan Curtis, starts screaming every F-bomb at me. I mean, screaming like, "Are you an effing idiot? What, when I tell you to move to the right, you move a half an inch, and he's more and more." And all of a sudden, Robert Mitchum, who was next to him, who was a big guy, he's standing behind him, and I see his big hand reach around and grab the director's wrist and squeeze it really hard, like hard enough to get the point across. And I hear Mitchum say, "He's just a kid."
Oh, that's wonderful.
And the director's like, he lets go of the wrist, and an hour later, Dan Curtis finds me on the set. He's looking around, where's Tim Stack? And he finds me and he apologizes to me. So Mitchum clearly made this guy go apologize to this guy who was his first job anyway.
That's the kind of presence you need on a set. That's what you want in your lead actor, to set that tone.
Yes.
Yeah.
To not let those shenanigans go. Okay. Now we're going to get to that voice in a second because he's part of my intro as well. Also, on my first episode with Jeremiah, like the preview, I talked about my only job getting fired, and I had, which I'm going to get to. I also talked about the biggest tip I had ever gotten in a restaurant as a waiter. I talked about that, and I forgot the name of the actor who gave me the biggest tip. Anyway, it was Art Carney. The great Art Carney gave me $100, said, "Keep the change." The only sad part of it was Art, had a drinking problem. And he waited for all his friends to leave. And then he flags me over and he said, "Give me 4 shots."
Oh boy.
"Give me 4 shots of rye, of whiskey." So I give him the 4 shots, and he does, like, it's a little bit of an Art Carney move with the hands, because he's doing the hands because he's going to drink. And then he pounds the 4 shots, hands me $100, says, "Keep the change." So it was both like, wow, I got Art Carney. It was like sad, but really cool because I got Art Carney doing Norton from the Honeymooners.
Yeah.
In front of me.
See the whole thing.
And then the other thing from that show was that I'd been fired. Well, it turns out that my guest remembered another job that I had been fired from, who was Charlie Sheen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You also got me the job with Charlie Sheen.
I did.
Which was, that's a whole podcast unto itself. And he's only a good guy. As he's described his own brain, he said, "I am an operating board in a telephone company that's on fire."
Yeah, he's a tortured soul, but
yes,
underneath it all, I think he's a sweet guy.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. Anyway, drum roll, please. We're going to add that in post. He's the creator of My Name is Earl, Raising Hope, The Guest Book, co-creator of Yesteryear, co-wrote the book for the musical Escape to Margaritaville. He's Who is Greg Garcia on Twitter, and his new show, Sprung, which I was a part of, premieres this Friday on Amazon Freevee. Give it up for Mr. Greg Garcia.
All right. Fantastic.
Applause.
What an intro.
Greg, that's Jeremiah behind you,
Yes.
producer, hovering over me like a nun in Catholic school. That's Dr. D, our sound engineer over there.
Yes. All right.
And Greg, we were talking a little bit earlier, got your story. You want to quickly talk?
I started working in radio. Yeah, I'd been mowing lawns for my uncle's lawn business forever. And then I saw these guys working for a radio station where they would drive around in a van, go to pools, and give out T-shirts to girls. And I was like, there's an easier way through life. So it just so happened that the assistant track coach of my high school worked at the radio station now. So he got me a gig, and I started driving around in this radio. And it was a van, and it had a giant, giant radio on the back of it. And then they asked me, hey, you need to do some spots from where you are. Just call in, and then we're going to put you on the radio. And they gave me the radio name. Everybody had radio names, right? So mine, the guy pulled me in, I remember, and he goes, you're going to be Greg the Party GoBot. And I was like, really? Do we have to do that? And he was like, yeah. This guy, Matt Farber, he ended up working at MTV, left there to work for MTV. So I started in radio, and then I had a radio show in college, and one at this tiny little station in West Virginia, and then with Tony Kornheiser of ESPN fame in DC. And that's what I was going to do until I decided to come out to LA and try to write TV shows,
which we're going to talk about. I want to go back to the first, Greg and I met in 1994.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk later about one of the things I want to talk about with you is our TV theme songs and your own theme songs that you've used for shows. But I want to start with this song, which we're not going to play now. We're going to add it in post, but we'll do it anyway. It's the On Our Own theme song.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that at all?
Kind of.
It's not good.
I don't think it. I don't think it would be. Yeah.
So anyway, Greg and I met in 1994 on a TV show on ABC called On Our Own, created by Dave Duclon. Great guy. We both owe so much.
Gave us both our first writing jobs.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic guy.
And but it starred the Smollett family, who was lately they've been famous because Jesse Smollett got arrested in Chicago for kind of faking a lynching, which was sort of
he got arrested for acting. He got arrested for acting.
He was in his hotel room.
And I got to tell you, he's staying in character too. He's the Daniel Day-Lewis of fake hate crimes, because he will not drop that act. And whether he did it or not, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he faked it from the evidence.
Yeah, and also the guilty verdict.
But I got to tell you, I'd hire him as an actor. He's just so committed to the role.
Also, the stories alone, but yeah. And especially in character, telling you the stories.
He always is in character. Yeah. And his brothers and sisters, they're in character too. They're like sticking with it. It's amazing to watch. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But he was like 11 or something when we worked with him, right?
He was I think, a little older. I think he was like 13.
There's so many of them.
There were so many Smolletts. There were 8 Smolletts, and they were very nice, and the parents were very nice.
And the premise of that show was that their parents died, and the older brother needed to dress up like their Aunt Jelcinda. It was like a Miss Doubtfire thing. And in order for them to all stay together, he had to dress up like an aunt and walk around in women's clothing. So
they had a guardian.
Yeah. And then like the head guy from the child services, he was in love with the woman, the in quotes woman that he was dressed up like. And I remember like the first day I was in the writer's room, I was like, hey, how come he can't dress up like an uncle? And somebody was like, hey, shut up, man. That's the whole show. Yeah. You're shooting holes day one.
Yeah.
We got,
he was also old enough to be an uncle. He was a lot older than the other kids.
He could have just had grown a mustache and it was over. But then the writers had mortgages to pay and stuff. So they were telling me, hey, shut up, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you got no character and drag. And
Yeah.
I have a favorite memory, but I want to ask you, do you have a favorite memory from On Our Own?
My favorite memory is, I have 2 favorite memories, actually. One involving a writer that we both love, that we've worked with many years since, still, a guy named Ralph Green. It was our first jobs. And when the show got picked up for the back 9, because what they'll do is they'll order like 13 episodes of a show, and then depending on how it's doing, they'll order what's called the back 9, giving it a full season of 22. We could not believe we had this job. We could not believe we were getting paid to do what we were doing. It was more money than we thought we'd ever get. You know, we're 2 C students that somehow lucked our way into this thing. And when they announced the back 9, we just very calmly in the room was like, oh, that's good. That's great. Blah, blah, blah. And we slowly walked to his office. We shut the door and we started jumping up and down on the furniture like we had won the lottery. We couldn't believe it was continuing. And my other favorite memory is the first script that we went through for notes. We all would read, someone would turn in their script, and we would all go through it page by page. And then the writers would say, oh, I have a pitch here, or I have a question here, and whatever. And it was the first time doing it. It was an upper level guy, a guy named Dave Chambers. It was his script. And I was thinking, who am I to even have a note on this thing? I don't know what to do. But we were getting towards the end of the script, and I hadn't said anything. And he had a character named, a character that said Scoot, telling someone to get out of the room, Scoot. And I said, hey, is it funny if maybe she says scoot, scoot, scoot? Like adding 2 scoots? Yeah. And then the showrunner, I think he just felt bad for me. And he was like, yeah, that's good. Yeah, add that in. Scoot, scoot. Yeah. So it's
Duclon's being nice.
Yeah. It's scoot, scoot, scoot. Put it in.
This pitch that's not going to change.
It's not going to change anything. It's nothing.
It's adding 2 words.
It's adding 2 words, one of which was already there. It's just repeating. It's basically giving someone a stutter.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, we shut the thing, and another writer looked at me, Fred Rubin, another very funny guy, and he looks at me, goes, 53 pages, and that's what you add? 2 scoots? Scoot. He goes, what are you doing? Counting the money in your head over there? You know, and we were all laughing about it. And then from that day forward, I was known as Scoots on that show. And Tim, you still call me nothing but Scoots. And that's the origin of that. So that was another one of my favorite memories.
Or when the phone rings, and my phone doesn't ring a lot anymore. I do mostly texting. So when it rings, it's a good chance it's Greg. And my wife will just shout out before I even answer the phone. She'll say, hello, Scooter.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, I answer the phone. Hello, Scooter. My favorite memory from On Our Own, Rich, are we doing okay on time? We doing all right? My favorite memory on Our Own was a moment where, see, the Smollett family had been sold to ABC as the next Jacksons.
Yeah.
And they were managed by a woman named Suzanne DePass, who was one of the partners of Motown. So it was like incredible, like Detroit Motown royalty that was going to be doing this show. So at one point, the singing episode comes up where they're going to sing it. And all the writers are really pumped for this because
we're like, this could really take us off. They're going to be record
when they
deals.
Start singing. Yes, they're going to be the next Partridge Family.
Oh, man.
And so we're getting ready. We're on the stage, and they've told us they've worked out this incredible harmony for this song, and it's just going to be great. And we're all just really pumped to hear the Smollett family sing. And somebody plays one of those the harmonica thing, the tone thing, and they start to sing, and even the dog on the show reacted like, what is that sound that's coming out?
Yeah, it wasn't. And there was no auto tune back then.
No.
So you just got it raw, the TGIF audience.
The dog ran off the set. So that was our first job. Now I would love, if we have time, I'm looking at Richard the Clock. How did you get that job at On Our Own? And then I'll tell you how I got my job.
Well, I got that job because I had done a writer's workshop, a 10-week writer's workshop where they were supposed to maybe place you on Warner Brothers shows, but I was told that I was not going to be placed on a show and I wouldn't even get any interviews. And I was really bummed out about it. So I went back to work on the show called Step by Step, where I was a PA. Then I saw some people that went through the workshop with me coming out of Dave Duclon's office, which was across the street from my office. And I was talking to them. They said, oh, we were interviewing for this new show On Our Own. What interviews have you gone on? I said, I haven't gone on any. So I went back to my desk, my PA desk. I got my script, and I just walked.
What was your script?
It was a Seinfeld spec script.
I want to talk about that too.
And I just walked over to Dave's office and I knocked on the door and he said, come in. And I said, hey, I work across the way. And he goes, yeah, I think I've seen you around before. And I go, hey, this is a script. I was in the workshop. I'm the same deal they are, but they're not sending me out. I think my script's good. I don't know why they're not sending me out. And he goes, I'll read it. Then he called me the next day and he said, I liked it. Come over here for a meeting. And then some writer on Family Matters, which he also ran that show, gave me a good recommendation and I had a good meeting. And then he called the workshop and he said, I'm going to hire someone from the workshop. And they said, great. But, and he said, who? They said, who? And he said, Greg Garcia. And they said, oh, no, we're not sending Greg Garcia around. We have better people. And he said, no, I've read other people. I like him. I'm hiring him. So Dave went to bat for me and gave me the first gig. And it all came from just walking. I mean, I could have been arrested,
right?
But I got a job out of it.
No, I love that story. And I tell younger people that story all the time. It's just like, you didn't do anything. You weren't stalking the guy. The door was open.
Yeah.
But clearly, it's the word no. If you are attracted to the word no, don't get into show business because you're going to hear it a lot.
No, I had another guy when I was driving across country. I had a guy that worked on a show called Dinosaurs that was a friend of a friend, and he was going to read my Seinfeld spec. And he told me to call him on a certain date. And I called him. I was in Waco, Texas at a motel. And I called him and he said, oh yeah, I read your script. I wouldn't come out here if I were you. And I was like, dude, I'm in Texas. I'm halfway. And he's like, yeah, I don't think you got it. And I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah,
and
I love that story.
Yeah, but it came out anyway. But yeah, you just have to keep going.
And what was the I never knew this. What was the premise? Because I also got hired by Dave because of a spec Seinfeld.
Okay.
And I had worked for him as an actor on Punky Brewster. And then when I was told by a friend, I was on this show, Parker Lewis Candley, you remember this?
Yeah.
And I was told by this other friend, he wanted me to be on this series, Mary Finero. And then he calls back 10 minutes later and said, the network said, you're old news. That was the quote. So I didn't know what to do. So I quickly, because I had 2 kids, and I quickly wrote a spec Seinfeld and got it to Dave Duclon. And he called and said, I really love your Seinfeld. Would you want to come work on this show? And that's how I ended up there.
Yeah.
Somehow I got it, Dave. I don't even remember how I got it to him.
We should have table reads of our Seinfeld spec.
Well, that was my question. What was the premise of your Seinfeld?
I have no idea. I knew you were going to ask me that. I knew you were leading up to that. I'm sitting over here racking my brain, and I cannot think at all. I'm going to dig it up later today and find out what it was because I have no memory of what it was.
Yeah, dig it up. We should do that.
I remember I wrote a Cheers spec in college.
What was the premise of that?
That was a whole dream sequence thing. It was a big swing. And that's the one that got me picked by Warner Brothers. They flew me out for like a little internship. So it worked. But that was a big like dream sequence kind of thing. The Seinfeld one, I gotta dig that up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, mine was Kramer got a job as a sex phone operator.
Oh, okay.
And then when George heard that, he was like, I can do that. I'm better at that than you.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and he gets a job, and of course he's horrible. He's just horrible. He ends up, they all get fired.
Okay.
And I forget Jerry's part in it. I'm gonna have to dig mine up because there was another story that involving Jerry that
we can compare them.
Okay, so we've gone through a lot there. I'm looking at my list of things I wanted to talk to you. You're a graduate of
Frostburg State University. Yes, the mighty Berg.
And I want to talk about that. Okay, well, we're having a little technical difficulty here today, so I want to skip the theme song. I guess we can talk about the theme song stuff. We can add it in later. Because I've heard you talk about when you pick a theme song for a show, it's not your favorite thing to do. Is that correct for one of your own shows?
No, I don't. I mean, theme songs are tough, and I don't think it's necessarily in my wheelhouse, and a lot of times, there's different processes too. Like we've had we call them bake-offs of like people, and they'll send in like 50 theme songs from different people, and you got to go through them. And then I play them for my family, and we'll make a game out of it. Everybody gets a little rating sheet and whatever, but no, it's not my favorite thing to do.
And I was going back and listening to the theme songs from your show. So let's start off. Let's play we'll start with the Earl theme. Okay. We'll add that in. And that was basically just music. That was,
Yeah, there was 2 versions of that. There was a long version where it was all these lyrics and stuff. So they did write a full-length version of it. When we did the Earl album, which we used some songs from the show, the full-length version is on there. But yeah, I don't think there were any lyrics in that. It was just kind of this hard driving rock kind of feel.
Who wrote do you remember who wrote the lyric? Was the same guy who wrote the music?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was same group that did it. I forget their names though.
Because in the old days, it used to be people wrote theme songs, and even if there weren't words to it, they would add words to add to the publishing, or the writer would add words to share in the publishing of the song. Like, for example, there are words to the theme song Bewitched.
Yeah.
But it's basically bewitched, bewitched,
Yeah.
bewitched, bewitched, bewitched.
Well, we had an
And
interesting.
whoever did that made a fortune.
Yeah. Well, that's funny you say that, and because with the Raising Hope song, that was kind of the deal.
That's what I'm getting to, is that after Earl and Yes Dear, which was sort of like that was a very sort of like 90s theme.
We had two
song.
different theme songs.
Oh, you did?
We had the original one that Rick Murata did that was just instrumental, and he was our composer on the show. And then we wanted to shake it up in season 3 or 2 or 3, something like that.
It was more of a rock tune.
It was more of like a rock tune with action, and that was a buddy of Mike O'Malley's who was in a band, and he submitted that, and we were like, yeah, let's shake it up some. It was more of a hard driving rock tune.
We're going to play that right now. And then you were talking about Raising Hope, which was basically, I remember you going through theme song, and then finally we said, I got the theme song. And it was almost like you had given up on the idea of the theme song, and we're just going to throw in this fun, upbeat, raucous sort of sound.
Yeah, I think that guy was like a buddy of my friend John Stamos's, and he submitted something, and it was like, Daddy-o, go. Yeah, and then I love the feel of it, but the lyrics weren't exactly right. So
I just remember, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'll play that now.
So then with that, what was interesting is we wanted to tweak the lyrics. And so I went ahead and I took a stab at the lyrics, and it became kind of a little bit of a combination of their lyrics and my lyrics. But to go back to what you were saying about sharing and publishing all that stuff, I don't understand why people have to be so greedy. It was my show. And then they came back and they were like, okay, well, technically you wrote some of the lyrics, so you'll share in the publishing. I go, I'm not going to take any of the money from the people that are doing the theme song. That's how they pay their bills. I know there's other creators that I think Chuck Lorre writes, doesn't he? Didn't he write men or something like that?
Well, you're talking to one who did the theme for Son of the Beach.
Okay, so. Well, you did Son of the Beach,
but there were no lyrics. It was just music.
But you also weren't taking the money from you weren't glomming onto someone else's thing.
No. There was $3 set aside, and I got 12 cents.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because that was a low budget show. But interesting little side note, the reason I did it was I had been in the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I'm talking to him about, I loved his movie, That Thing You Do. And I said, I really love that surf tunes. I love surf tunes. And he said, well, I wrote that. And I was like, what, really? And then I went home. I said, I can write a surf tune.
Yeah, well, then that's
and
cool.
Then I wrote the theme for Son of the Beach. I will say the theme for Nightstand with Dick Dietrich was licensed from a porn company.
Really?
Yeah. So
that seems right.
So sometimes, you'll be watching Cinemax late at night when they used to run those soft porn.
Yeah. And
the theme from Nightstand comes on. There's some,
They licensed you from a porn company, didn't they? For that
I
show?
wish.
Yeah.
I wish. I wish I was qualified for that. Okay, so let's we're going to talk about My Name is Earl. And let's start, we'll play Greg's acceptance speech for his Emmy. Okay, we come out of that. We'll give him some applause there on that.
Yeah.
The way the audience applauded that night.
That was a fun night.
And you met weirdly Cloris Leachman that night.
Who gave me a kiss. Yeah.
Who then you cast on Raising Hope.
Later. And the best part of that was when we work, I mean, you have this experience. I don't have this experience because you're an actor and a writer. But when you're a writer, you make jokes and you put stuff on TV, and then you just hope that people are somewhere laughing in your living room. You don't get that feedback, And so to be on stage, that was more important to me, is to get laughs during that speech than it was to win the award. That meant way more to me. And then when I walked off stage, Conan O'Brien was walking through the wings. We passed in the wings as he went back out. He was hosting, and he just looks at me and goes, how the hell am I supposed to follow that? And it was the greatest compliment to get from a comedian ever. So that was a cool night.
That was funny. Another friend of mine, Barry Finero, who's a writer, won an Emmy for Golden Girls. He walked off stage and Milton Berle told, there was some kids looking for autographs, and Milton Berle told the kids, like, you kids, get the hell out of here, get away from him. And the next thing Barry said was, his head was somehow in Linda Evans' breasts.
Really?
Like, she grabbed his head and hugged him, and they went into that's all he remembers.
Wow.
It's all a blur except for that.
That's better than the award too.
So let me talk for a second about your writing process, because a lot of it, when you get an idea, you go on location to write it.
I will do that.
Yes. And so I know for the guest book, you checked into a guest house somewhere.
Yeah, I would go to the cabin in the woods and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to get into the vibe of everything. Well, for a couple reasons. One, if you actually go somewhere to write, there's more pressure to get it done. If you're at home and you're writing, then like, you know what, I'm going to go do this now.
Yeah,
I'm going to go
kids come in and bother you.
Distraction. So like, and you've spent real money to go and rent a house. Like, you got to come back with something. So there's that pressure. But also, if I just get myself, like Earl, a lot of times I would go to like really crappy motels and just sit in there at the desk, not wanting to touch anything else, and just kind of be in that atmosphere. I remember when I was doing the guest book, somebody was like, I was like, you know, it takes place in this small little mountain town and whatever. And somebody said to me, oh, you know what? If you're going to do something in a small mountain town, you should watch this movie, or you should watch this TV show, or you should check out this. And I'm like, no, actually, I'm just going to go to a small mountain town and I'm going to go to the bar and I'm going to overhear people talking. And like, because if I'm just doing a version of something I saw in another movie or TV show, it just keeps getting watered down from reality. I want my own experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And you did, I remember in the guest book, like, you got a bunch of experiences, like, anyway.
And with the guest book too, I mean, how it all started was I would go to these cabins in the woods to work on stories for Raising Hope. And they always had a guest book sitting on the counter for people to write about their experiences. Oh, we had a great time. We brought grandma, the kids went sledding, whatever. Your dishwasher's broken, whatever. And I would instead take the book and write like a 30-page crazy story of something that supposedly happened in their house, just to freak out the people that were there next.
Right.
And then what happened was, after doing that,
wasn't there a murder in your first story?
It was a murder. One guy stuck a fork in another guy's eye. And then in the guest book, he says, I put the fork back, so maybe you want to throw away all the forks. And, you know, and then after I'd written like 13 or 14 of those, I went to TBS and I said, just read these stories. I want to film them. And that's how that show came about.
And you would take photographs. I remember you'd come to work and you'd take photographs of the stories. And that's how you remembered what you wrote too.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. After a while, I started also writing them in the laptop. But yeah, for a while it was just the hand, and writing something with your hand, like just writing with a pencil or a pen.
It's hard.
That many stories. Oh my God, I have to take breaks and your hand cramps up, and
you're worried about your handwriting.
Oh man. Oh, the handwriting just gets so awful as you keep going along. Yeah, it's great. The first page, it's great. And then you just bail.
Are those pictures ever going to show up anywhere?
I don't know. I have pictures.
I know you're working on a book.
Yeah, but the book is more of like, just memoir stories I tell at parties. But yeah, I think the guest book, hopefully I'd love to publish it sometime, because there's a lot of stories that I wrote in guest books that we didn't film. And it's fun. And there is like pictures of the houses, and because I try to make it very specific to the house so people would believe it. You know, if there was a little closet underneath the stairs that was kind of hidden, then I'd write a story about a woman that ate too many weed brownies and went into that closet, and her family was searching for her. You know, like try to make it very specific to the house.
Once again, you're listening to It's Radio with TV's Tim Stack. Got Greg Garcia here. The new show Sprung premieres this Friday on Freevee. Let's talk about My Name is Earl, because having worked on that and having had so much fun working on it, I think we had more fun than you did. You had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun,
but you did a lot of work.
You guys were in the room all day, and I was out on set and I was running around editing. It was a lot of work. It was a very labor intensive show, but the most fun place ever to be was that writer's room, because that was a collection of just some of the funniest people you've ever met in your life.
Yes.
And just an eclectic crew of folks, and everybody's still friends and close now. And there was always a raucous time going on in that room. So yeah, that was a fun place to be.
So about Earl, I want to go back in that, because one of the things is, and I want to talk about Sprung too, obviously, but I'll make the comparison now with Sprung. You know, with Earl started out as a crook and then becomes a good person. one of the things I love about Sprung, and I'm not giving anything away. You can tell by the trailer that's out there. We're not giving anything away here. Jack, the lead character played by Garrett Dillahunt, starts out as he's just a guy. He's a good soul.
Yeah.
He's harmless. He's never harmed anybody in his life, but becomes a criminal.
Yeah.
And I just think that's an interesting sort of, twist. You're going towards doing good things like an Earl, but it's come from a completely different standpoint.
Yeah, but in both instances, you get to kind of enjoy the criminal element of it, because in Earl, when you meet him, he's deciding that he's going to turn over a new leaf, right? He wants to do something good with his life. So his criminal days are behind him, yet every episode we need to see flashbacks of what he did.
Right.
So then we can tell the audience what he did and how he's going to try to make up for it. So you get to see a guy committing these crimes and you get to enjoy it and laugh and be on his side, because he regrets it.
Right.
And he's going to try to make up for it.
To the person he's harming in the robbery or whatever it is.
Exactly. It's just like it's a cheat to be able to be in that world and still love your character. Right. And with Jack in Sprung, it's a little bit of the opposite, like you pointed out, but he's a guy that reluctantly is committing crimes because he has the skills, because he's learned so many things in prison. He was just there for a weed arrest, but so he has the skills to do it, but he also decides, I'm going to only commit crimes against bad people, and then I'm going to use some of the loot that I get to help out good people. So you get to be in that world. And once again, you're rooting for the criminal. It's an interesting thing in both those shows. You can kind of root for the criminal.
Yeah, I do. I love that. Going back to Earl though, did a lot of people think you were in AA?
Yeah, a lot of people.
My sister did. She called me. She said, Greg's, and because I'm not talking out of school here, my sister is devout in recovery. That's a big part of her life, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, and sure, and making amends is one of the steps, and so a lot of people did think that oh, he must be in recovery and this, but no. I mean, I've known a lot of people in recovery, and my uncle was somebody who was always in recovery, and I don't know. There's many. He took a lot of steps. I don't know how many times he got to the amends step and everything, but that was a presence in my life for sure. And I was just always drawn to redemption stories and underdogs and whatnot in the shows I like to watch and movies I like to watch. So yeah, it just came about.
So we're running short on time. I want to talk so much about Sprung, which premieres this Friday, and we just had the premiere last night. How fun was that with a live audience?
Gosh, we got to see it at the Hollywood Cemetery where they show movies and stuff. We had about, I don't know, 1,000 or so people there. Amazon threw this amazing event, like free food for everybody. And oh, it was so much fun. I don't think I've ever been to a premiere of one of my things that was so much fun. And to hear everybody laughing,
that's so different. We did it in Sun on the Beach. We had this premiere at the House of Blues, which I remember you couldn't get to. I think you were back east. And it's just so much fun when you hear this stuff with a live audience.
And to see it on the big screen, because the show is shot very cinematically. We tried very hard to shoot it unlike most comedies you see. It's
very different.
It's a wider aspect ratio, and so no, that was a blast. And yeah, coming on Friday.
But you got a little bit of the rep company back with Garrett and Martha playing different characters than Raising Hope. Very different characters, which hit me even more last night. Yet it's mind-boggling to watch these two actors work. It's fantastic on the set, and then you see the final product.
Well, they're
just
so
incredible.
They're so good together, and even though they're playing different characters and they look completely different, and we tried very hard to make sure that it wasn't, you're not watching Bert and Virginia from Raising Hope. There's no denying the chemistry they have once they're on a set together and in a scene together, and there's kind of a shorthand between them, and you see them working off of each other, and so you can't get away from that, which is awesome. And look, if people liked Raising Hope, then you're gonna see two people that were in that show, and hopefully you like them playing these other characters. And if you never saw Raising Hope, it doesn't mean anything to you. So
I'm telling any fans out there, because it's sort of a combo, because you get the bad of Earl with the crime aspect here, but the goodness of Raising Hope, and it's really fun. And then today, this review compared it to Breaking Bad. I thought it was a great analogy of a comedy Breaking Bad, because there's a serialized crime here, which I'm not going to give away or get into, but you follow this group on this serialized crime, but it's a comedy.
Yeah, when I woke up and saw that review that said it's a sitcom Breaking Bad, it's like, I mean, I'll take that every day of the week. Are you kidding me? Like, can we just put that on every billboard, please? Please.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. That was awesome to read because we really did try to do something different. I know there's a lot of stuff that's kind of crossover from my shows and themes and what have you, but at the end of the day, we did try to do something different, make it look different. Our DP, Chad Persons, did like an amazing job of that. So it's great to see that people are acknowledging that.
Yeah. And I just want to give a shout out to the other people in the cast, Philip Garcia, Shakira Guerrera, James Earl, who, oh my God, so funny last night. And this girl, Claire Gillies, she's just my favorite. She plays Wiggles. And people just can't get over her because the voice is real.
The voice is real. And when I saw her audition, I was just like, this is so good. And I assumed the voice was kind of put on because it's such a comedic, fun voice. And then I called her to give her the job. And she's still talking like that. And I'm like, this is her voice.
Right.
And
she's no Jussie Smollett. You don't have to be in character right now.
And then here's the thing too, like, because her voice is kind of like high and whatever. And you would think like, oh, she must be like a little ditzy or something. And she's like wicked smart.
Yeah,
she's like
really
wicked smart
yeah.
and just like such a good actress. This is the first thing she ever did. She had to join the union.
Yeah,
I think. And she was amazing.
Yeah, she's really a treat. I'm telling you, folks, this Friday, Sprung on Freevee. We did shoot it in Pittsburgh, which was an interesting, I was hoping for Philly because there were Doylestown locations that came in the book. But it's shot in Pittsburgh, which was an interesting experience.
Yeah, first time I've ever been able to kind of get on the screen what was in my head as far as like exteriors and stuff like that. Having grown up on the East Coast, I've always tried to do that, but we always shoot in LA and there's palm trees and you can only shoot so many places to make it look like that. But this was awesome.
Even last night watching the pilot again, there's a shot where Shakira and Philip are out talking and there's these hills behind them and it's green and you think like, oh, is that a green screen? And it's like, no, we're on location. And, you know, the other thing, too, is I think that looking at it again last night, I think Pittsburgh or these locations in Pittsburgh are almost like a character unto themselves that I think bring even more life to the whole show.
Yeah, I agree. You know, you said I went to school in Frostburg, Maryland, and that's what the area I was picturing when I wrote it. And we were able to kind of pretty much get that same look a little bit outside Pittsburgh.
Okay. We're going to be done here for the day. We're running out of time. You've been listening to It's Radio with TV's Tim Stack. Thank you, Greg Garcia.
Thank you.
I promise you, everybody, find Freevee. You can find it through Amazon.
Yeah, Freevee. You can access it through Amazon Prime, but you can also get the Freevee app on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, wherever you get that kind of stuff. You can get it. It's free. There's commercials, but they're actually a lot less commercials than other streamers that show commercials. They're shorter. They're not going to show you the same commercial 6 times in a row. It's not going to be Flo from Progressive saying the exact same commercial 6 times, making you want to blow your brains out.
Okay, on that note, we'll see you next time on It's Radio with TV's Tim Stack. Thank you.
Guys, that was incredible.
All right, cool.
That was a fun interview.
That's
Before
fun.
we go
Really
any
good.
further, my friends, we need to do a voice. We need to do a drop for Greg.
All
With
right.
Greg.
A promo drop, radio drop.
Right. So don't.
So I would, Greg, you promote the show. Promote, say this is Greg Garcia.
Okay.
Check out the new show on, put a little drop in there for the show,
Okay.
and then cap it with, and you're listening to radio with TV's Tim Stack.
It's radio
And then
with
this will
TV's
drop
Tim
into
Stack.
Future shows too. So I'll
Okay.
continue to promote.
So just
that.
something like, hey, it's Greg Garcia, creator of Amazon, is creator of Sprung, available on Amazon Freevee, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like you want me to do that?
But you
Yeah,
can
and then
say
we'll-
creator of Amazon if you like.
No, I
We'll
won't do
use
that.
it. I'll drop it in my shows.
Okay.
I'll drop it in future shows. So that
And-
we
and-
continue
but-
to remind people.
But if
to watch
once
it.
I say who I am,
Yeah.
what am I saying then?
I say I'm the creator, the writer, the producer, however you want to say
Yeah.
that. Watch my new show.
Be sure to
Sprung.
check out my new show,
And then-
Sprung.
Yeah, and anything you want to say there and say I'm on the radio show with Tim Stack. It's radio with TV's Tim
Yeah.
Stack. That's what
All right.
the title of that.
like check me out on Tim's? Like, I'm just curious on like, is this going to be before we're on or after or?
This will drop into this show, but it will also drop into my shows.
Okay.
The shows I do, and then we'll drop in future shows for Tim, so that
Okay.
it's basically promoting Sprung.
Yeah.
For
Okay,
years,
okay.
you know, as long as you guys want.
So hold that mic down a little.
Does that make sense?
I'm going to do something and then you
Yeah,
tell
just
me if I
basically
did something
you're
wrong or
that
something.
you're
Yeah.
Promoting and
Yeah.
and then say that you're listening to it's radio with TV's Tim Stack.
Yeah, just a short
That's your
little thing.
capper.
You ready? I'll count you down. 3, 2, 1.
My name is Greg Garcia. I'm the creator of My Name is Earl, Raising Hope, and some other shows you probably didn't care for. I'm got a new show on Amazon Freevee called Sprung. Check it out. And it's radio with Tim Stack.
With TV's Tim
Oh,
Stack.
geez, I screwed up. Okay.
Just do the last one. He'll fix it.
And you're listening to It's Radio with TV's Tim Stack. 3, 2, 1.
And you're listening to It's Radio with TV's Tim Stack.
Beautiful.
I like that voice.
Yeah, I put on a little of my radio
Yeah,
voice.
that was a good radio
Nicely
voice.
done, gentlemen.
Guys,
We
really good
managed to
work.
pull it off, and with everything else that is going to be added, that I'll add after the, obviously in post. I think it's going to
Well,
work
full
out
show.
as far as the length. You'll have
Okay,
a full
cool.
length show.
Can we get a couple promo pictures before you guys leave? us?
Absolutely.